is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about big discussion back and forth about Trump's PAC and how much he's raising and how much he's spending on legal fees. So his opponents are bringing that up, and a lot of us supporters are like, we will give however much we need to for this. And we'll also be talking about some of the responses from the black congressman and also our black senator Tim Scott and well, not mine, but just like in general in the Republican field. But in relation to Florida and their African American history, and I'm going to just touch on this one point for them today. But tonight, I'm actually going to be speaking in length about this with This is Savvy. Savvy does have her own YouTube channel. She's mostly known, and she's on Twitter as well, but she's mostly known on TikTok. She has over 1 million followers. She's really killing it, or has always been killing it. But she's got a great channel. She's very wise. And so she tweeted something really fantastic about this subject. So I've had her on before, and my sister's like, you should invite Savvy on. And I was like, okay, I'll shoot her a text. And so she said yes, so she'll be on tonight. So it'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern time, and so that's when we will start our discussion. I think we will talk for about an hour, but we'll start with like Kamala Harris, the stuff that she said, and just go from there, how this story has evolved and the things that have been said about it, the portrayal of it, and just whether the curriculum is accurate or if it's not. So we should have a great discussion. So I'm looking forward to that. I think I don't remember if I read her tweet about it, but give me 1 second. I think I'll just go ahead and read. We'll wait for tonight. But she's a smart gal. She really is. So I'm looking forward to having her on. So make sure that you guys set a little reminder or go ahead and the video for it is already like made as far as the scheduled for it. So if you go on YouTube, they should be able to find like the scheduled thing, and you can wait in the queue, and you can do that on Facebook too. So again, we'll be starting at 10 o'clock and tagging this from every angle, talking about the different criticisms that people have brought up. I've had a lot of discussions about this over, the weekend. We talked about it a lot last week. So looking forward to tonight. I'm not going to go through the whole history of this subject on this broadcast. Just going to talk a little bit about it today. Also, there was a big scare yesterday when the DOJ just, I don't know, issued a little like reminder to Hunter Biden's business partner who's testifying today behind closed doors. Some people are like, well, I gotta watch it. It's behind closed doors. You can't watch it. You can read a transcript maybe later. I don't know. But they just kind of sent this gentle reminder of, hey, by the way, you need to surrender yourself. And so the initial reaction from, at least from the Post and other people, were putting it out there that the DOJ was trying to arrest him before he could testify. And that's not really the case. And but it seems a very suspicious, weird timing. Like it was obviously meant as an intimidation tactic. So the DOJ is just corrupt, man. So talking a bit about that, and the subject with the prayer breakfast thing, if you didn't read my article or are unaware with it. So that's the first thing we'll talk about. But before we jump into the subjects, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blackteennews.com/donate. Cost of stream, my website, all that stuff. There is a link in the description to go to the website to donate. Otherwise, you guys can do super chats on Facebook. Super chats on YouTube, Facebook. You guys can send stars. So if you can, God bless you. I thank you guys for liking, for subscribing, for getting other people to watch and recommending Black Tea. So all that stuff, I really do appreciate it. Please check out different merch that we have at blacktnews.com. Like, we got different mugs and t-shirts that you guys can check out, and plenty of books that I have written that you guys can also check out as well. So not trying to do a long show today because we got another one late tonight. So let's dive into it. So I don't have a meme today, but I do have a little video. I did write an article. I did post it not too long ago, so you guys can check out this article at the website. But Nancy Mace, who is a Republican congresswoman, she had a prayer breakfast. Well, Tim Scott had a prayer breakfast. Senator Tim Scott had a prayer breakfast, and he invited her to speak. And she had a very interesting opening line. And she says it's a joke. So why not share the thing that she said was a joke with you guys? So I'm gonna share the joke. I don't think there's a punchline. I think jokes normally need such things. So I wouldn't call this a joke.
Together, another year, another standing room only event. And when I woke up this morning at 7, I was getting picked up at 7:45. Patrick, my fiance, tried to pull me by my waist over this morning in bed. And I was like, no, baby, we don't got time for that this morning. I got to get to the prayer breakfast and I got to be on time, and a little TMI. But he can wait. I'll see him later tonight. But I was here early today for you, Tim. And I think everybody was here early for you today.
So, I couldn't have sex this morning out of wedlock because I had to get to the prayer breakfast. Ha ha ha. That's the joke, I guess. So people were obviously mentioning this. I wonder what the energy was in the room. You could hear some laughter, probably some awkward, cringy laughter. Maybe some people thought it was funny. Maybe some people were laughing in unbelief, and maybe other people in there were just, I don't know, heathens, and they didn't mind too much. But just a little background on prayer breakfasts. They're like red meat to like the evangelical voters, and you'll have different politicians and stuff put them on, and you invite pastors and their members and other folks like that who are of the faith. So to joke about that is not really appropriate. Now, it's not because evangelicals, Christians don't talk about sex or don't have sex, and I can assure you you can be in some wild services, especially like if you get some lively preacher talking about Abraham and Sarah. So it's not a thing that people are just so prude that they don't hear people talk about it. But at the prayer breakfast, the big thing politically, it wasn't like a wise thing for her to do. And maybe some of you guys listening are like, oh gosh, she's so prude. Guys, it just wasn't the time and the place. So people are questioning like political judgment at that moment. But the other kicker is she said in bed with her fiance, not in bed with her husband. So that's a big no-no. And you could say, Christina, you're such a prude. Like, guys, she's at a prayer breakfast. She's at a prayer breakfast. Her pastor is in the audience. She says she's been saved for 4 years. So I saw one of the guys from the Babylon Bee who was criticizing people for like piling on her. And then I think at some point they must have realized that she's been going to that church, or she says she's been saved for 4 years. And he's like, okay, if she's unaware that that's like a sin, then that's bad on her pastor. So really not appropriate for the prayer breakfast. I wanted to tell that story in church yesterday, but I was getting like the music and stuff together, and so my sister opened up, and so she tried to like give me like a lead way to come and talk about it before we like started singing praise and worship, but I didn't understand. I was just like, no, the whole praise team about to come up and sing now. And so after service, I just pulled a couple members aside. I was like, I got to tell you what happened here. And they were horrified, but I wanted to tell them because when I told my sister on the way to church, she was so horrified. horrified, like eyes bulge, mouth drop, just could not believe that. Like, yeah, I had to deny my fiance sex this morning because I had to get to the prayer breakfast. Don't worry about it. We'll do it tonight. Um, so there's I saw someone, a Democrat, uh Twitter page that was had retweeted her whole entire speech and was saying, which obviously they don't like Mace, but they don't like Republicans and they don't, I guess, like evangelicals, and they're just like, if this was a man, people wouldn't even be saying anything. I'm like, I still think it was bad. If it was you know a man, talking about sleeping around with chicks outside of wedlock at a prayer breakfast, that I would still think that's inappropriate. So I wouldn't say it was sexist and how they're responding to her. Maybe other people are sexist. I'm not sexist, not in that regard. No, I think you know Christians just largely consider it to be sinful. And there's a lot of people who go to church every weekend and they cohabitat, you know, and they or they might not be living with somebody, but they do, engage. So the story might not mean much. But it is still a big no-no. And so Jack Posobiec had originally tweeted that out, that little snippet, and so she had said to him, "Well, I'm a sinner. I go to church because I'm a sinner, not a saint." And she tweeted out the entire thing where she told a speech how after her second divorce, she, that church really helped her, and Tim Scott was the one who convinced her to go there. And so that's good, and that's great. But I hope, I don't know much about her church other than it being a mega church and there being some really fluffy stuff on the website about seeker sensitive, whatever that means. It sounds like it's a squishy kind of soft church. So if she's been there for that amount of time and is unaware that that she should be waiting until she's married to sleep around with her husband rather than a fiance, then that's really not good discipleship. But I'm glad that that she's not in as a dark place as she was before. But Nancy Mace has been a more progressive Republican. She's someone who's considers herself to be pro-life, but she does believe in that if you were conceived is sexual assault, that child does not deserve protection from violence. That's how I will put it, because that's technically accurate. If you believe everyone else deserves to be protected except this particular child. So she believes in those exceptions. But she also apparently is willing to compromise on particular weeks. At least she spoke to that on Meet the Press, I think it was. So there's more details in my article. So I don't know what week she's willing to compromise on. I don't think week makes sense as far as compromise, because I'm like, well, why does one day make a difference or the one week make a difference? And so she said she believes that people on the right are wrong about this issue. I'd love to talk to her about it. I'd love to go back and forth and debate her a bit and pick her brain and see what she finds to be so wrong. But she also brought up her multiple marriages before in politics, when she supported the Respect for Marriage Act, which, by the way, doesn't make gay marriage legal. It just repeals the Defense for Marriage Act. So it was pretty performative, though there were concerns about how it can weaken religious liberty. But it's very much performative. But she supported it, and she had tweeted out like, "Oh, if they want to have happy or unhappy marriages, they should be entitled to it, because I've tried it a couple times." And people are like, "Ma'am, this isn't cute." She's a nice looking woman. I'm like, but this isn't cute. Those kind of tweets and stuff. So maybe other people find it relatable. I definitely don't. But anyway, I do have an article about that at blacktnews.com. But yeah, that was not a joke. It was not funny. It wasn't the time or the place. So hopefully she's pretty unrepentant about it. Um she's making excuses instead of I don't know, um saying, "Hey, me and my pastor will, you know, deal with this. I'm sorry if I offend anybody." There's no statement like that. Um just kind of like finger wagging at the folks who asking for people to understand her, but at the same time finger wagging to think a bit at the people who are upset about it. So I don't think she's handling it right, whatever. But the story is, gonna fizz out, I guess. But anyway, moving on. So you guys are aware, and we've talked about it quite a bit, that the Florida, um, that Florida's put out some African American history um, curriculum that's pretty extensive. It's the document's like 200 pages long, and there's one line. People agree that it's robust and etc. That it has a lot of good stuff in it. Um, but people have taken issue with the line that says that slaves learned skills, and in some cases they were able to use them to for their personal benefit. So people have taken that line and interpreted it as, oh my gosh, they are saying that people benefited from slavery. And that's not what it means at all. That's not what people are saying. Now, I wrote an article about this. Kamala Harris, actually, in the White House, they approved of this language when it was like the AP curriculum. And they supported that back in like January. And they were upset that Ron DeSantis rejected that curriculum, and they rejected it because it had a bunch of woke stuff in it. But it had very similar language as far as yes, slaves did learn skills, and in some cases they learned to they use them to their benefit. Now, there's no morality like in that statement. It's just kind of it's just like a it's just the events. It's just how things happen. I can give you a good example. Robert Smalls was taught how to sail a ship, right? That's a skill, okay? Sailing a ship. I passed my boater license test in what was it, the 7th grade, 8th grade or something, I don't remember. Maybe it was 9th grade. um Long time ago. You'd have to walk me through driving a little boat. Big ship, I don't know. You'd have to talk me through it. Show me. I'd say that's a skill, right? um Robert Smalls then stole a Confederate ship and set himself free and other people free. And he used his knowledge of the coastline to help the Union and help them, fight, help them defeat the Confederacy. And because of his example, that helped to strengthen the argument that you should allow Black people to fight, for their freedom. So it's just true that he had a skill that he learned. And no one is saying he could have never learned those skills without being a slave. Of course, that would be silly, but that's what people are interpreting it to be. But he did learn a skill, and he did obviously use his skill quite brilliantly. And I it's pretty amazing that I don't think there's any movies about Robert Smalls, and I don't think I recall learning about him in school or anything like that. So a lot of people just learn about a handful of people: Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, Madam C.J. Walker, Harriet Tubman, just a handful of people. And they'll learn, of course, about the Civil War and stuff like that. But they in the minds and the perception, I think, of a lot of people from like just kind of standard education. It's different if maybe you take a specific African American history course or something, but most people don't, go through a bunch of beyond like the handful of people. And their perception is that you're like in the house doing housework, or you're in the field, picking cotton, or maybe you got to hoe a potato or something, but you're picking cotton. Like that's the image. But you don't. hear stories about Robert Smalls. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's not awesome that he was enslaved. It's not awesome what happened to him. It's awesome that what he did in spite of what was done to him. That's pretty awesome. So that's just an example. It's just historical. So people have been, of course, asking some Black Republicans about it, and so Tim Scott said there's no silver lining to slavery. So that was his comment. Byron Donalds said that the curriculum was good. There's just this line he didn't like in particular. But he's saying that people are saying that he sided with Kamala Harris, and he's saying I didn't side with Kamala Harris. His complaint mirrors Kamala Harris's complaint. So yes, he kind of did side with Kamala Harris. But Ron DeSantis was asked about this on the campaign trail as far as Senator Scott's comments. And so I want to show you his response, and then I'm going to show you another interview that Vivek had, because it's pretty clear where this is going.
What do you think about what Tim Scott said?
I think part of the reason our country has struggled is because D.C. Republicans all too often accept false narratives, accept lies that are perpetrated by the left, and to accept a lie that Kamala Harris has been perpetrating even when that has been debunked. That's not the way you do it. The way you do it, the way you lead, is to fight back against the lies, is to speak the truth. So I'm here defending my state of Florida against false accusations and against lies, and we're going to continue to speak the truth.
So he kind of laughed at it, and it's just like, you can't give in to like the media narrative, and you got to push back against it. Just keep pushing. Don't concede any ground when they're trying to slander you. And Ron DeSantis in Florida has faced this repeatedly. Back in January, again, they were like, "Oh, they're racist because they want to take out this AP course. They rejected it." And again, of course, there was like queer theory, there was intersectionality, there was writings from communists, there was like stuff about BLM stuff, CRT stuff, like a lot of woke stuff that isn't allowed to be in the curriculum in Florida anymore. So they rejected that, and they have these standards. And again, the language that they're rejecting and saying is racist is the same thing that was in that curriculum that they thought was good, but they approved that curriculum because it had like queer theory. But this stuff is bad because it's an opportunity to make Ron DeSantis look bad. And so that's what they're taking. So Kamala Harris started all this stuff. I'm not surprised they asked Tim Scott about it. And I don't think Tim Scott's answer was like awful or anything like that. But obviously they're playing a game. The media is here. And Tim Scott probably just isn't, he feels probably legitimately the way that he felt in that interview. But he's not about to, I don't know, put himself up for this Negro said this about slavery. So he's not about to like make him the news cycle in that sense. Now, Byron, I think the first time he talked about it was in a tweet. So he's on TV all the time. So they probably would have asked him about it eventually. But the tweet wasn't necessary. But nevertheless, they put it up. So here's how this is spreading, though. So here's an interview with Vivek about, well, he wanted to talk about other stuff. They wanted to talk about this.
But Scott Jennings, the president has...
That's the wrong one.
Problem with. But I do think that some of these issues and these spats can be distractions from what should Governor DeSantis or Tim Scott or myself or others actually be debating. How do we grow an economy? How do we actually lift all people up, revive self-confidence and pride in the next generation of Americans? That's what I think we need to be focused on.
All right, I'm going to move on here. I do think it is worth underscoring that these criticisms that we're quoting here have not come from the media. They have come from African Americans in the Republican Party, Senator Tim Scott, Congressman John James.
So it's very obvious that Kamala Harris started this. The media started amplifying what she was saying, and more people started talking about it. And the media asked Tim Scott about it. But they've done that to shift to, well, it's not Kamala Harris. like she's not the thing. Like she's talking about it, but she's not the story now is that the black Republicans are against it. The Republicans are fighting with the black Republicans on slavery. That's obviously awful. That's the story now. The media is now absolving themselves of how this all began. They're saying it's just because there's blood on our hands doesn't mean that we did it, so people have to understand there's a game to all this. Now maybe they don't care that much because they're not going to support. Obviously, Tim Scott's not going to support Ron because he's running himself. And Byron is pro-Trump, very pro-Trump. John James has endorsed Donald Trump and other folks as well. So, but John James, his comment is just blatantly untrue. And he's from my state. I know John James, not like extraordinarily well, but we've had conversations here or there. But he had tweeted out, this is a statement that they're referring to. Number one, slavery was not CTE. I don't know what that's supposed to stand for. Nothing about that 400 years of evil was a, in quotations, net benefit to my ancestors. There are only 5 black Republicans in Congress, and you're attacking 2 of them. My brother in Christ, if you find yourself deep in a hole, put the shovel down. You are now so far from the party of Lincoln that your education board is rewriting history, and you're personally attacking conservatives like Tim Scott and Byron Donalds on the topic of slavery. You've gone too far. Stop. So, this net benefit thing, I don't know why it's quoted here because that's not the language. And to say something is a net benefit versus someone learned skills and use it to their benefit, those aren't the same things. Those are different statements. If you said like slavery is a net benefit, that would mean everything that you went through, all the torture and the forced labor and sexual assault or malnutrition or whatever the heck that you went through is good because of whatever, I don't know, because you learn to cook or sew or something. So that's what he's laying out, that everything was worth it. That's what that means. That's not what the curriculum means. That's not what the curriculum is saying. And if you look at the curriculum, you wouldn't get that impression either. So John James's statement here, and he said, my brother in Christ, like, I don't know where they got that. I did reach out to some people on the John James camp, and I didn't get an answer for this. Like, where did that particular phrase come from? There are people speculating because him and another person who endorsed Trump used that language that maybe they got it, I don't know, from the Trump camp. I don't know. I was trying to figure that out. Not that I thought someone would admit to it. But I don't know where they got that phrase from, but to do the quotation net benefit, that doesn't exist. That's made up. That's imaginary. He's also playing the race card here. Either you're right or you're wrong about something. Either you're right or you're wrong. And like the example that I said with Robert Smalls, like, it's just a matter of what happened. It doesn't mean that it was a good thing that he was enslaved. It doesn't mean that's a good thing that my ancestors were enslaved. It doesn't mean that. That's not what the curriculum is alleging. So anyway, they've fallen into this trap. That's where there's the articles and stuff about it. But the funny, like, not ha funny, like sad and hysterical Joker kind of way is Democrats are just, they find it hilarious. There's a TikTok that I saw with a video with Monique or something saying, like, I don't, like, kind of laughing, like, I don't give a, bleep or whatever, showing the headline with the 4 Congress people who've spoken out against the curriculum. And people in the comments are just like wild. Like, let me see if I can find it real quick and just like read off a bit to you guys what people are saying about this. But I think I mentioned this a little bit on Friday, but people are showing pictures of them and their white wives. People are just calling them coons still, like, oh, the coons are waking up. So there's no benefit to them um saying this stuff, other than like it to genuinely, if you feel that way and you have an issue, that's fine. I think like you maybe should have picked up the phone instead of making a public kind of spat, you know. I think it's different with Tim Scott. They asked him on the campaign trail. Like Byron could have maybe picked up the phone instead of like tweeting. John James could have, I don't know, picked up a phone instead of tweeting what he tweeted. But he shouldn't have tweeted what he tweeted regardless, because it's just a lie. It's just a lie. It's just not true. Let me see. I think this is it's not loading. I don't know, it's taking a while. It's taking a minute to get to this. But other than trying to take out DeSantis, there really is no okay, here we go. I got the comments. People, I say bleep them. Are we supposed to give a bleep about them? It was only a matter of time. Clap, clap. Laughing. Well, what did they think was happening? This is what fascists do. So now people's response is, well, we told you guys Republicans are racist. We told you guys Republicans are fascists. So here you are, and you're still choosing to be in the party of fascists. So that still makes you a bad person. So you're just affirming and confirming these bad things that people think anyway, and they're not giving you brownie points for it. So it just makes you look like clowns. They said shame on these people for betraying the black people of America. The prime example of the more you bleep around, the more you'll find out. Oh, well, thoughts and prayers. They are foolish to join them to begin with, like laughing faces. Note how they're males, BM always trying to get black men, always trying hard to get the proximity with white men. They're race traders. Look at how they use language about black women. I don't even know where she got all that stuff from, but this is what people are saying. Why black Republicans complaining for? They're kissing their bleep, so don't complain. Black Republicans aren't always self-loathing. Sometimes I notice from a distance of the prophecy has been fulfilled. I've been saying this for a long time. They bleep around and they found out. So just laughing face. This is no surprise. Black Republicans think they're the same. So pictures of raccoons. They said, nah, bruh, keep them tap shoes on. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. There's room under them. There's room under the tent for everybody. Me. Yeah, that's not a big top. That's a hood. People just laughing. All right, Stephen from Django, please stand up. So, and people keep mentioning like, oh, you guys are in the party of leopards eat faces, and you're surprised when the leopard eats your face. And they're like, oh, did the white supremacists betray you? They call them bootlickers. When you do clownery, more thoughts and prayers. This is what they wanted. This has been a talking point from Republicans for decades. Why are you surprised now? They said now they've gone too far. Nothing before this. So they didn't see the line crossed at denying systemic racism or stopping reparations, and now they draw the line a little too late. Someone said, boy, oh boy, I guess they didn't read the fine print. Oh wow, let me pretend to be surprised by this outcome. They wanted to be liked so bad. So someone said, I ain't helping either one of them. We are the company we keep. Clarence Thomas is a good example of what black Republicans are, sick face. So whatever. Ron DeSantis was correct. Ron DeSantis was correct, and you fight the lies. You fight the lies. Now, I can sincerely, again, believe that Donald probably had a sincere issue with the line. Um, Pick up the phone, have a conversation, debate that a bit or whatever. And he seems to not want to make it a bigger thing because he's like, people are saying he walked back a statement. I don't feel that he really walked back his statement, but he's trying to make it sound like there's not a really much a disagreement or whatever. But John James's statement is slander. But you saw how the media is shifting it to, well, these black Republicans are upset, and that's the story now. That's the story now. Vivek has nothing to do with this, and they want him to weigh in. So this is going to be a conversation I'm sure they will try to carry over, and it could have been something that they could have just pointed to and said, "Hey, Kamala Harris, this is the same thing that Kamala Harris agreed with back in January. So maybe you need to direct your questions to her, to what made her have a change of heart." That's where they could have pushed back. And as a matter of fact, Tim Scott did bring that up. He did bring it up. He did bring it up. So I don't know how they're going to pivot from this, and maybe they don't care to, because if the argument is that Trump is more electable in the general, but people won't vote for him because they think he's racist or too controversial compared to Trump anyway, then like whatever appeal he has, there's other things to his appeal, but just kind of disappears. And they definitely don't want him to win in the primary because they want Trump to win in the primary. So it just wasn't wise. It was for nobody's giving you kudo points. Maybe like the media will be like, oh, they stood up, but they're just going to tear you down the next opportunity you can get. But people from the outside looking in, especially on, like, people use the phrase black Twitter. There's no separate Twitter for black people. It's just kind of like a different algorithm or whatever. They don't care. Nobody's giving these people praise for saying their piece and sticking up. They're saying, where have you been? And we told you that they were racist, and you're still racist because you have an R next to your name. So you have to think smarter than this. Now, Jack Posobiec, he's someone who is like really, really, really pro-Trump, and Charlie Kirker is really pro-Trump. But they're like, no, some things, like, you just stand up for the truth. And I know guys are white, so it's a bit different, but they're like, no, like, fight the lie. This was a bad move. We don't understand why Donald did this. We don't understand why John James did this. So many people are disappointed by what happened, but no benefit to it. No benefit to it. Anyway, let's move on. People were talking this weekend as these different reports have come out about Trump's PAC and how much money they've raised, and a large amount has gone for legal fees. So apparently 40 million has gone to legal fees for himself and others. And so people are pointing out that there's a lot of people who are assuming that, they're using this for the campaign, and they're going to, I don't know, use it to eventually beat Biden and stuff. And they're using it obviously for legal fees and stuff. So that's the attack that, I don't know if it's so much of attack for some people than just pointing out a fact. And for some people it is an attack, like, have even described it as basically using his campaign basically to just fund his legal troubles and issues instead of like going out of his own pocket. From I don't know what people are saying about this outside of like the internet, because I haven't like really, I guess, got the phone or called up a couple people or gone to a meeting, I guess, since the story kind of broke, to gauge where people are at. But at least online, from people's conversations about this, who are like in it for Trump, they're like, we don't care what he's spending, that he's spending the money on his legal bills. The DOJ is obviously coming after him. Therefore, this is part of his campaign. Like he's being targeted like this because he's running for president, because he did run for president, because he was a good president, because all the stuff. So they feel that they're in the fight too with him. So yes, they'll keep giving money, and they're fine with him spending some money. Now, I hope, I don't think someone would tell me this if I called anybody, because probably couldn't say much about their case, but I know some friends who are caught up in some legal woes because of Trump, and particularly because of the elector thing in Michigan and the charges there. So my hope though is that that people aren't going bankrupt paying for this stuff, and that's part of what the Trump campaign is paying for. Um, that's my hope. I know other people are raising funds for them. Um, so if it's not just for himself, I hope a lot of people who are caught up in the different indictments and charges are being covered under this pack. But overall, I don't think it's good that so much money is being spent on this. But some of his indictments are crazy though. Like the Bragg one is just silly. Um, I think he's going to have some trouble on um, the records case. There's pending ones. There's things that are pending. And I hope we don't know what all the lawsuits and stuff are going to though. There's some things that have been alleged about paying for some legal fees for something that's not um related to any of these like indictments and stuff. I don't I don't know that there's some speculation, so I don't want to mention what it is, but hopefully all these things are going to legal fees um that people would find to be an honorable battle, I guess. But I hope he's taking care of those people that are in some hot water because they stood behind him. I hope that is the case. I hope that is the case. Um, but Trump is going to be fighting legal battles for if he wins the primary up until basically it's over. The race is over. So that's going to be a huge suck on fundraising, on the campaign, on the race, and it's going to suck money, it's going to suck time, it's going to suck just all the oxygen out of the room, it's going to suck conversations away from policy. It's going to be a huge burden to carry throughout all that time, and that's just I'm not trying to scare you guys, I'm just trying to be honest about what's going to happen and what I'm sure is a strategy. For sure, for certain. Um, but yeah, that's a lot of money. Like out of what 56 million, 40 of it going to legal. That's not good. Curiously though, Trump also like called for all the other competitors to drop out of the race, and then they come together and like raise as much money as possible for a get out the vote effort. Now Trump has downplayed like get out the vote kind of stuff, I guess, with ballot harvesting and others, because these people press him about how like, well, what happened with 2020, like we need to do more. He's like, but we won, and that's kind of his thing. So people are like, is there a big plan? um but if he's calling for everyone to jump out so they can just raise more money for get out the vote, um I guess you could question, would it go to get out the vote or would it go to more legal fees? So no, people shouldn't just jump out. People they should battle it out. Primaries are good. They're not, oh, I mean, if you're an incumbent and someone primaries you, that's usually a bad thing. But he's not the president. Biden is the president right now, and they should all, if Trump's can take it, and take it all the way, he should be able to knock out all these guys. But definitely a very effective strategy as far as like all these indictments and all these legal woes being something that's going to really clog up Trump atmosphere up until election day 2024 probably. So it's not good. It's not good. So today Devin Archer is meeting before Congress in a closed door session to testify in relation to his work with Hunter Biden and what he knows about Joe Biden. There was a concerning statement from the DOJ about Archer, just letting them like, hey, you need to report to jail, you need to surrender yourself. And the alarm was that they were trying to get him to do that prior to his testimony, which wasn't the case, but it does seem very much like intimidation, to just be like, by the way, we hold the power over your life and your death and your freedom in your hands, and you got your, just FY, just remember that, by the way. Report, don't forget to report for jail on the eve of when you testify. It's this DOJ is just really, really shitty. You could just say it's just interesting timing. I guess you could say that. I think it's deliberate, interesting timing for certain. But I'm trying to find the little statement that his lawyers put out about all this. Now, New York Post, and I did share it. So they did kind of interpret it incorrectly what was going on. So I did post the statement from Archer above that in my feed. So just want to let you guys know. We are aware of speculation that the Department of Justice weekend request to have Mr. Archer report to prison is an attempt by the Biden administration to intimidate him in advance of meeting with the House Oversight Committee on Monday. To be clear, Mr. Archer does not agree with that speculation. What else is he supposed to say? Maybe he doesn't agree with it, but just like, he's kind of like a man under the gun. Can you really trust what he says here? To be clear, Mr. Archer does not agree with that speculation. In any case, Mr. Archer will do what he has planned to do all along, which is to show up on Monday and to honestly answer the questions that are put by the congressional investigators. So we shall see. We shall see. So when that information comes out, it should be pretty interesting. But maybe he doesn't really snitch. Maybe he just, doesn't say much because, like I said, he is under the gun and he wants, maybe some cushy accommodations and doesn't plan to totally blow everything up. So I'm surprised when like juicy information comes out. Normally, I'm a bit more cynical about, I don't know, justice these days. So if you're just like salivating at the idea of whatever he's gonna say, I don't know what he might say, but there's plenty of other evidence to show that Joe Biden is obviously intertangled with his son. I mean, his son has not tweeted, but messaged his daughter talking about his dad taking so much money and stuff. So it's and other people who dealt with him have said that the big guy is Joe Biden. So there's plenty of evidence. Like I saw a media interview like there's no evidence. I'm like, are you kidding me? No evidence? Are you insane? But whatever, we'll see what ends up happening. Last thing I want to show you, there was a discussion. I want to show you this clip of this interview talking about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and him finally acknowledging his granddaughter. Over the weekend, Navy Joan, who is Hunter Biden's illegitimate child, who he denied, and they had to do a court-ordered paternity test, and he had to be, forced to give the child support, and got his rate reduced, by the way. So Joe Biden, they would ignore her like she didn't exist, to the point where they would hang stockings of the 6 grandchildren when he had 7, and he's had 7 for 4 years, but they just would not acknowledge it. And so it's become a discussion. It's been a discussion, but it's really become a discussion as of late, especially with Hunter's custody, hearing and battle and stuff with his daughter, who he's denying the last name to. She's not supposed to use his name. Which is just pretty remarkable. But someone at CNN was like going in on him. So I just wanted to play this little snippet here.
But Scott Jennings, the president has made being a family man a central part of his political identity.
It's not Republicans, with all due respect, who made Hunter Biden into a complete scumbag on this and other issues. The ignoring his own daughter for 4 years, and the president of the United States hanging up a stocking for the dog, and not for his 7th grandchild.
Okay, look, we can also have sympathy for people who are struggling with addiction. Let's keep this conversation respectful.
Listen, I totally agree. And you know where I'm from, a lot of families deal with addiction. And you know who ends up picking up the pieces? The grandparents. And in this case, the grandparents would not acknowledge this little girl. It is offensive. But the bottom line is...
But they have now.
Oh, what a hero. The polling must have been brutal.
Just
The
making
polling
sure
must have
that
been
the
brutal.
facts are
to
out
No
there.
one's
bring
ever
him around.
questioned.
They have now. So the media is so silly with their rapid defense of Joe Biden. Um they finally done it, sure, but that's a good point about, like, yes, usually it's the grandparents who will pick up these certain the slack when you have a child who's failing and they need some kind of love and support. And yes, um I've seen that in my family too. Not my parents, but like other relatives had to grandma had to, pick up the slack when someone else was like dealing with addiction and stuff. But my first thought went to, after seeing them, like, oh, people, we got to have sympathy for people with addiction. True. However, my mind immediately goes to 1994 Joe Biden crime bill. So I did actually go back and watch his speech today. It's like at least 7 minutes long, or over 7 minutes. So you guys can find him talking about the crime bill and stuff, and testifying about it, and how we need to be hard on crime. And it doesn't matter where these people have come from, and we don't have time to think about those. They just need to be in jail and off the streets. So you guys can go back and watch that stuff. And Joe Biden's like, I was always tough on crime. I've been tough on crime. And now his son, they want him to get away with all of these tax crimes, blatant violations of the law. They wanted his gun charge to just drop off, his gun felony charge to just drop off, and other ridiculous stuff. There's just no sense of justice within the Biden administration. They want to go after their opponents, sure, their political opponents, but not everybody else. By the way, McCarthy said that he wanted to look into impeachment inquiry, but there's been some other, I think McConnell, it was like, it's not good to just keep impeaching presidents. That's true. It's not. That doesn't mean he doesn't need to be impeached. If some of the stuff that we know pans out and is true about Biden, and the bribery and the kickbacks for his name, and that affecting like our policy and other stuff like that, bribery is an impeachable offense. I went back and read the original Trump impeachment from, that was like 2019. That was really wild. I think I have maybe pulled up still. Let me see. No. No. Okay. If you've never read the actual Trump impeachment papers, and it wasn't that long, so you guys can go look at it. I think a lot of people who were like so happy it happened never actually looked at the documents. But he was impeached for like abuse of power and then obstruction of Congress. I'm like, obstruction of Congress? Like, you didn't answer our subpoenas. I'm like, bro, you are not above the executive branch. Like, it's checks and balances, but you are not above the executive branch. So I thought like the obstruction of Congress was silly, but the abuse of power was, a lot of it, the complaining, it was about the Ukraine, the phone call, and holding up the funds, in which there's actually like I think a fine or something associated with that particular crime. So I wouldn't say that was an impeachable thing, but the real reason they're upset because they're like, he's attacking a political opponent. He's using his power to attack a political opponent. That's what he was impeached for. So it's just really rich. That's why they really impeached Trump. And you have Biden, the whole DOJ, just like doing so many crazy things, in contrast with them protecting his son, but doing all these things that they know isn't really good for the country, but is definitely going after his political opponent, knowing that when Biden was in the White House last, when he was the VP, that Obama's DOJ really let Hillary Clinton get off when she for sure committed those crimes that were enough for her to be charged. So we're living in a crazy world, guys. We really are. But anyway, I'm gonna call it quits. That this where we'll end it today. Please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos. I do have an article about that Nancy Mace situation and looking at some of her more progressive sort of views and different commentary from people on the situation. So it's an interesting article, I think. So go ahead and check that out. Check out different merchandise that we have available at blacktnews.com, different shirts and mugs and whatnot. You guys can also check out different books that I have, like, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available on Amazon. Guys can just find my name, but there should be a link in the description. But if you go to blacktnews.com, go to merchandise, there's a banner at the top that will take you over to my book website. And you guys can read about all the books that I have, because I have 2 nonfiction books, and this is one of them. But I also have a lot of fiction books. I have one over here. Showed this the last couple days because they just happen to be within arm's reach. But like, this is one of my fiction books. So I just have a lot that I like to write about. So go ahead and check out my stuff. And I thank you guys for those who have. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation to blacktnews.com/donate. It costs to stream. It costs to run my website. If you're like, why does it cost? Because I'm using a software to help with a bunch of different things. I'm streaming it multiple different places. And there's other things that I like to do, like to get. And Bible says you have not because you ask not. So I am asking if you can support. And that way, God bless you. Very much appreciate whether it's a gift of $10 or $20, $50 or more. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching live. Thank you guys for watching back later and for your comments. That does help, discoverability and all that stuff. So thank you very much. I ask that you guys join me tonight when This Is Savvy joins me. For an in-depth discussion about the Florida curriculum. We'll be walking through basically the whole timeline and the criticisms from different commentators in the media and different conversations we've been having. So we both have basically, I guess, the same view, just spoiler alert, but we'll go through some of the objections that people have been issuing, I guess a lot of objections, and go through the different things that the congressmen have said and the media's reaction, and of course, Kamala Harris. So please make sure that you guys join us tonight. It'll be at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So a little late for me, but I asked my sister, like, is 10 too late? And she's like, you want to do it at prime time and compete with everybody else? I'm like, nothing is on because of the strike anyway. But anyway, yeah, 10's fine. I know it'll be like 9:00 her time. But people are watching this from all over the place. So maybe that will be like your prime time, 7:00, or, I don't know what time it is on the other side of the world. I know people watch Black Tea from all over. So, please join us. We will be looking at different comments and other things like that. So, it'll be a really good discussion. Savvy is a brilliant young woman. Though we do have similar opinions, the way that she phrases things and says things are so, I think, really profound. So please join us. It'll be a really good time. God bless you all, and I will see you tonight. And if not tonight, I will catch you tomorrow.